Rob and his family sit for dinner in their lovely home. While they're saying their prayers, the house starts shaking and the lights go out. Fortunately, his wife Meryl and their daughters Valerie and Sarah are okay. They look outside to see what they assume is a plane crash or a terrorist attack. Birds start falling from the sky, which convinces Rob that the air is toxic. Suddenly, Sarah and her father start spitting blood and die. They're followed by Meryl. Valerie walks away from her dead family and hides holding her flashlight. She eventually becomes unresponsive too. The scene changes to Dr. Lauren, an ex-biologist from NASA, watching breaking news of a massive explosion in Pennsylvania. The reporter claims that everyone in the area has dropped dead, and they're unsure if it's a chemical attack from terrorists, since it wouldn't make sense that it happened in a small farming community. Lauren is interrupted by a knock at the door from U.S. Army sergeants. They tell her the explosion on TV is a matter of national security, and she's a person of interest they want to take for questioning. Lauren tells them they found the wrong person, but the sergeants claim they're authorized to use force if necessary. Lauren has no choice but to go. She meets Colonel Roger, who introduces her to Professor David, an astrobiologist. The colonel tells them that geologists confirmed the explosion was caused by a basketball-sized meteorite that happened to cause a toxic gas within a 20-mile radius. The meteorite dissolved into the soil, leaving no leads behind, but the hundreds of innocent lives it took. David and Lauren ask what they're needed for. The colonel tells them to suit up and enter the area, emphasizing that any information they can get him is vital. He then takes Lauren aside to comment why he chose her for this mission, claiming that he needs a believer and something about her file tells him she'll figure out the mystery. He adds that a sobriety test will be conducted on her as a mandatory procedure. Inside the bus, David tells Lauren that he read her book and actually liked it. He shows her a picture of his sons and goes on to talk about how looking for extraterrestrial life for a living can be disappointing. Lauren finds a small red seedling at the center of the explosion area. After leaving the area, she looks at its picture and gets an idea to search up recent meteorite events on the web. She finds a video of a Russian woman, Olga, being questioned about an explosion which released a gas that killed people. She got the information from the neighbor's son, who is a soldier. Olga proceeds to talk about a seed that some kind of tree grew out of. She says that the tree doesn't exist anymore since they destroyed it, which caught Lauren's attention because of the seedling she found earlier at the explosion site. Lauren then finds out that Olga was shot after the interview, and the internet is following the conspiracy that it's because she leaked government secrets. In an autopsy room, two doctors start evaluating the body of a man who died from the explosion's gas. They start from the skin, which looks too normal. It's not until their first incision that they see something out of the ordinary, which is that the man's blood looked like ink as it dripped from his chest. Even more surprising, the dark liquid that ran out of his chest starts re-entering his body, healing him. Suddenly, the man wakes up and sits in silence. The male doctor leaves the room scared, as the other one stays and waits for orders. She's first ordered to check his pulse. She reveals that the man has no pulse or blood pressure, and his skin is cold. The man remains unresponsive to the questions they ask him. Meanwhile, 49 of the thousands who died from the toxic explosion and were believed to be dead hours ago woke up. The only problem is that they're detached and indifferent to reality. Doctors try showing them pictures of themselves and their loved ones to stimulate them in some way, but aren't hopeful. Lauren is devastated by this. She breaks down, but David tries to get her to try and cheer up, but she sends him away. Back at the labs, one of the scientists explains to the governor that the reason why only a few of them woke up might have something to do with how these few lucky people were at close proximity to the explosion, leading them to swallow a substance that's a fragment of the meteorite. That substance must have formed a new life form within their body. Another thing those who woke up from their death seem to do a lot is face the same direction. Lauren's still outside in worry. The colonel approaches her and asks what's wrong. She tells him that a similar explosion happened before in Russia, which he's aware of. Lauren doesn't think it's an accident and that they may also have been a target like Russia. The colonel's repulsed when he hears that her source of information is the dark web though, so he walks away. On a table, higher officials discuss the case of the victims who woke up from their death. The doctors worry that whatever's keeping them moving is rewriting their DNA sequence and turning them into an extraterrestrial being. Lauren mentions Russia's decision to incinerate an entire town to hide what happened after the deadly explosion. She proposes that they try to make sure the explosion doesn't happen again. Lauren buys alcohol from the store and starts drinking in her car. She has flashbacks of her father telling her he's taking her to a secret vacation that not even her mother can know about. She's interrupted by a lady knocking onto her window to check check if she's okay. Back at the labs, a woman tries to grab the attention of her husband, who's one of the brain-dead victims. He doesn't even blink, which discourages everyone. Lauren still has hope though. Inside the morgue, Lauren approaches a little girl amongst the brain-dead victims. She shows her a book her mom gave her and starts opening up about how her death took a toll on Lauren as a kid. She asks the quiet little girl to respond in some way. Nothing happens, and Lauren's phone rings. In an instant, the little girl reaches out her hand towards Lauren, frightening her. The colonel asks what's going on, which leaves Lauren no choice but to mention the little seedling she found at the middle of the explosion. Lauren thinks they should take at least one of the victims to the place to see what happens. David proposes that maybe the reason the brain-dead victims all face north is because that's the direction the seedling is located. Before they make any conclusions, they're faced with breaking news of an enormous object growing at the area of the previous explosion. The news reporters claim that what was previously believed as a meteorite is a seed that grew in 2 days. This somehow makes Lauren feel better. Lauren and David are sent back to the massive object, allowed to bring one of the victims. They're surprised that it grew so much larger than they thought it did. The brain-dead man they took with them is seated in front of the object as the others wait for something to happen. Nothing happens at first, but suddenly he starts moving and communicates with the others. He tells them that he can't go back with them since he can't survive in their environment. A man watches Lauren trying to explain to the press how the aliens could have traveled through a wormhole as a shortcut to Earth. Lauren gets a knock on the door and opens it to find her father, who she doesn't seem happy to see, but lets in anyway. He starts with small talk, mentioning her love for science from her early age. He tells her he's usually lonely since he lost her mother, and then her. She doesn't comfort him, and he leaves. Lauren returns to the explosion area, because the man the alien is communicating through demands to speak to her, and not anyone else. He tells her their previous home was no longer habitable, and they had to go to Earth specifically since the seed wouldn't grow anywhere else. The alien tells Lauren that the coordinates of this planet were offered to him by a human who calls himself Supernova 94. That human gave up all the strengths and weaknesses of its own kind. Meanwhile, the soldiers try to attack the object the seedling grew into. The alien tells Lauren that the humans need to leave the environment for them. She tells him they can't do that because it's their home. He tells her that his kind won't go down without a fight and has various abilities that overpowers her side. The alien man proceeds to control a soldier's body, making him take off the suit protecting him from the toxic gas. The other soldier trying to stop him dies. Everyone panics and waits for orders on what to do. The soldiers all get a high-pitched sound blowing into their ears until it's too painful to keep on their suits. The gas enters their body and they're all possessed by the alien, causing them to shoot at each other. Lauren looks at the alien as she's dragged away from the catastrophe. The army tries to throw a missile at the alien, but fails since he's made a dome-like invisible shield around the object and himself. The guy who was staring at Lauren on TV earlier hears the name Supernova 94 on the news, which makes him go look for a journal with the term written on one of its pages. Lauren, on the other hand, watches news of countries facing various disasters, from earthquakes and strange noises to drought. A girl who vlogs about hearing eerie sounds goes through the woods looking for her dog. She walks around and stops when she sees something. Lauren gives her childhood home a little visit and goes on to question herself on who she is. The world's end feels like a relief to her because she's miserable anyway. She goes back to the explosion area. The object looks different. Lauren listens to the earth and hears the life growing inside it. She finds it overwhelming as the alien guides through a memory of hers. He tells her that she was involved in an incident in her younger years, where she accompanied her father as he went to Area 51. Young Lauren excused herself to go to the bathroom, but got curious and wandered around until she found an alien in a glass. She falls as she touches the glass and is hurried back to her father as if nothing happened. Young Lauren would grow into a brilliant scientist from an early age, having an ability to manipulate her peers and teachers too. She claims to be an alien, which concerns her parents, and she tries to communicate to extraterrestrial entities, introducing herself as Supernova 94. Her concerned mother starts interfering with these actions by locking up the science lab shed Lauren spent her time in and forbidding her from painting on the walls. Lauren threatens her, telling her she'll die a horrible death, which she in fact does, due to Lauren's ability to control things like the alien. Lauren breaks down as she comes to terms with all the memories. The alien approaches her and takes off her mask, revealing that she's immune to the toxic gas as he is. He then welcomes her. Afterwards, an egg-shaped mysterious object starts appearing all over the world. world. It's similar to the one young Lauren used to draw. It then bursts into a wave of dark smoke that kills anyone it comes to contact with. The man from earlier who had supernova on his journal was a former CIA agent who listened to young Lauren communicating with the aliens back then. The movie ends with all earthly species and plants becoming extinct. Lauren, on the other hand, is finally home.